Welcome back to the Butler Talks. We had another loaded college football weekend to break down, and trust me, this one had it all. Statement wins, big-time performances, and a few teams that might be doing some soul-searching this week. Before we dive in, make sure you like, comment, and share the show so we can continue to grow this community of football fans. Now let's start with our game of the week. Texas Tech heading out to Salt Lake to take on Utah. I anticipated this being a defensive battle where every possession would count, and things like turnovers will cost you your shot at this one. It did not matter, at least in the first half. 5 combined turnovers later, the Red Raiders had a 7-point lead going into the third. Tech's turnovers were drive killers, but they were able to consistently march up and down the field. Starting QB Bryce Morton was knocked out of the game in the third quarter, but freshman Will Hammond was beyond ready for his moment. He torched the Utah defense every way he wanted to in the fourth quarter. Their offensive line must do a much better job of keeping their composure, however. They cost the team several big plays with their penalties. That offense with Morton or Hammond will be dangerous either way. And we have to talk about that Red Raider defense. They were flying around and they suffocated Utah. They played with high energy, great physicality, and then when you have a linebacker like Jacob Rodriguez, it allows you to show why you're one of the best units in the country. That win places them at the front of the pack for a Big 12 championship. For the Utes, their offense has some serious soul searching to do. The Utes are projected to have 2 first-round picks, and you would not have known that if you watched the game on Saturday. With how their weapons struggled to get open on the outside, relying on the air game does not look like a possibility this year. Defensively, Utah should be okay with their performance, but they need the depth behind their ones to continue to develop to potentially give those starters a chance to stay fresh. While Texas Tech and Utah gave us plenty to chew on, they weren't the only game that mattered. Let's shift gears and check out some of the other big-time matchups that shook up the landscape. We have to go out to Norman and to talk about Oklahoma taking on Auburn in the SEC matchup. That Sooners defense is legit, and once again in a big-time matchup, they had the opposing team's QB head spinning. John Mateer was able to efficiently move the ball against the Auburn defense, but once again, the Sooners were not able to establish a ground game. As they continue to get deeper into SEC play, expect the team to struggle if they can't find some way to get a ground game going, especially now hearing about John Mateer's hand injury. With the Heisman frontrunner expected to miss a serious amount of time, if the Sooners cannot figure out a way to replace his production on the ground, they will struggle mightily. For Auburn, they should feel just fine. Yes, they should have made more plays to never allow the refs to decide the game for them, but your conference coming out and publicly denouncing one of the major touchdowns of the game tells you a lot about the success of their defensive efforts. Next up, we got to go out to Lincoln, where we got to talk about Michigan coming in to face a Nebraska team. Bryce Underwood and Justice Hayes continued to impress on Saturday, and that dynamic duo will continue to have to be among the nation's elite to give the Blue a fighting chance to win these type of games. Wink Martindale's defense does not have the talent it has had the last couple years, but it still does have enough to make big plays and big moments. On the Nebraska side, Dylan Raiola and that passing attack was quite impressive, but their run game is beyond inefficient. Matt Rule has built this program up to the point where they lose close games like this. They need to continue to get better to take that next step next year or in the future to win these type of games. We also got to talk about my biggest miss of this weekend. Illinois going into Indiana. Fernando Mendoza is that guy. Last year's Indiana squad was one of the best stories in the sports world. And this year, it looks like Curt Cignetti might even have a better team. The Hoosiers have 2 big games left on their campaign against Oregon and Penn State. If they are able to shock the world once again, then it may be time to put the Hoosiers among the true natty contenders. For the Illini, I gotta be honest, this campaign is most likely over from any championship perspective. Brett Bielema needs his squad to keep playing hard to try and continue to keep moving this program forward. Now that we've covered all the headliners, let's zoom out a little bit. There are plenty of other results across the country that deserve some spotlight. It's some programs on the rise, others they may be seeing writing on the wall. And one of those teams with the writing on the wall is Clemson. We have to talk about Syracuse sending Clemson to a 1-3 start. This, in my opinion, was the end of an era. Dabo Swinney's traditional approach of avoiding the transfer portal, focusing on developing high schoolers, should have peaked this year. If they look this bad with an experienced and upperclassman-heavy team, then how bad could it get next year when they have to restart the timeline at a lot of key positions? We also got to talk about North Texas and Maryland looking like they might have found some young studs at QB. Neither one of these programs had great expectations heading into this year, but man, have they put people on notice. And that is due to Malik Washington and Drew Mestamaker. Both of these young gunners are taking the country by storm. Then combined with Bryce Underwood, we might have to start talking about this being one of the most exciting true freshman classes we've seen in quite a while. Now we have to get into TCU and USC being under the radar conference contenders. Josh Hoover and Jaden Maeva are two ballers who are taking teams that most wrote off for dead to programs that have a sneakily good chance at winning their respective conferences. The both squads have a long way to go before that can happen. If these teams are able to continue to build off their hot starts, then they could be setting themselves up to hoist a conference championship at the end of the year. We also got to talk about Miami continuing to look legit. Mario Cristobal has the Canes looking like potential national title contenders. The program has had multiple seasons where they flamed out after a phenomenal start, and that cannot happen this year. Carson Beck, Ruben Bain, and that all-star offensive line must continue to lean on their physical and in-your-face mentality as they prepare for ACC play. If the Canes can continue down this path, then their first ACC championship just may be on the horizon. And that'll wrap it up for this week's breakdown on the Butler's Talks. Texas Tech made a statement. Oklahoma's defense is still locking things down. Michigan and Nebraska gave us a battle, and it was plenty of under-the-radar teams, forcing us to keep our eyes on them. College football is heating up and fast. We'll be right here to bring you all the storylines every week. Don't forget, like, follow, and share so you don't miss a beat. Until next time, this is the Butler's Talks. Thank you.